Doctors and nurses come in, and all of a sudden I hear everything go from beep, 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 and I flatlined. I'm dead. Code blue. Machines are going crazy, lights are flashing, and it's my room, and I'm struggling to breathe.
You are literally a walking testimony, and that whole experience changed everything. And you have an entire new book around that experience.
I'm flying around on corporate jets, corporate helicopters. I'm having lunch with President Obama, the Queen of England, all these things. I had forgotten the most important things. And that was, one, self-care. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't exercising the way I used to. And the other thing was, I forgot my why. My why had always been provide and protect.
All right, we are back for yet another BSN Bookshelf. You already know what we do around here. We go behind the scenes and brand new book projects, talking to the authors directly and figuring out how strategically to get your message in front of more people. If you haven't met yet, my name is Brian Knowles, president and founder here at Black Speakers Network. And today I'm talking to the one and only Roderick Jefferson. And if you have not seen him in and around the Black Speakers Network community, he has an incredible story. You're about to hear from a man who has 25 years, I think, Roderick, over 25 years.
30 years now.
Dang. Where does it all go? 30 years of corporate executive leadership experience. He's worked for companies like Salesforce, Oracle, PayPal, AT&T. He's also leveraged that to build his incredible consulting practice in and of itself around sales enablement. I believe you've been a keynote speaker in over 14 countries, if I have that right.
That is correct.
Okay, so lots and lots of credibility coming to the table. But the reason we're talking to him today is because of Roderick's new book. So if you're not familiar, stroke is a very it's actually, I don't know if I told you this, Roderick, stroke is like my number one fear. It's one of those things. I think they call it, is that what they call a silent killer?
Yes.
Stroke a silent killer. You may or may not, like, you know, depending on what state you're in, if there's large strokes, small strokes, you know, you may or may not catch the symptoms. And if you don't catch it in time, it's like, you know, you and I did an interview about this before, like that FAST model. So,
yes,
but the stroke that you had less than a 2% survival rate, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
So now you are literally a walking testimony, and that whole experience changed everything. And you have an entire new book around that experience. And so I just really want to bring you in. I know the book released not too long ago. And so while the presses are still hot, I want to talk to you about that experience. So maybe at the high level, give us kind of a TLDR on the book itself, and then we'll go in from there.
Absolutely. First of all, thanks for the opportunity, man. It's always good to catch up with you before we dive into this, because you and I can sit and talk all day. But as far as the audience goes, you hit on something extremely important, and that is that it's a silent killer. Matter of fact, the stroke that I'm about to tell you about and the experience around it was my second stroke. I didn't even realize that I had a first stroke until I had this one, and they started doing brain scans and such, and they realized that it's actually turned out to be my second one. And so I want to start this way. I was on a business trip down in LA. I live up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and professional keynote speaker. I was down there getting ready for a sales kickoff to hit the stage the next day. I'm out with my team and we're having dinner, and I just felt off. I was really, really tired. And I thought, you know what? And I played football, basketball, not like double days, that kind of tired from football, not like when basketball first starts and you're just beat. This was to a point to where I had a hard time keeping my eyes open. And so when people say, did you have any warning? Actually, I didn't. Up until that night, I felt fine. And so we go to dinner, and I literally wake up, excuse me, and I am looking at my team with a look of fear on their face, because I had fallen asleep during the middle of a sentence. and boom, my head hit the table. That's what woke me up. And
while you were sitting down
while we were
speaking,
having
or
dinner.
oh, okay.
Yeah, we're having dinner that night, and I look up and I know I'm tired. I'm at that time, I'm almost 55. I'm thinking, maybe it's just catching up with me. Or, I'm joking with him. Maybe I got narcolepsy. I don't know. And I said, but either way, I'm going to head back to the room, do a little more prep for tomorrow's keynote, and then I'll see you folks in the morning. Well, the problem was walking back, and my room was not that far from the restaurant on site.
Oh, y'all, you didn't have to. You didn't have to go anywhere. It was just you just had to kind of go upstairs.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
And I just remember I had to remind myself, lift your left leg, lift your right leg, lift your left leg, lift your right leg, because it felt like I was walking in quicksand and my legs were just so heavy. And I wasn't having a difficult time breathing or anything else other than just that level of exhaustion. I get back, do a little prep, go to sleep like every other night. I wake up the next day and I'm talking to my wife every day whenever I'm on the road. We always check in. Hey, what's going on with you? How are the kids? What's the schedules look like? Anything I need to know about, right? And I sounded the same way that you hear me right now, Brian. What she heard was and I could hear that something was wrong in her voice.
Like a slurred
That's
speech.
when she started to walk me through fast protocol, right? She's like, say your name, what's your middle name, say your ABCs, A, B, L, X, Q, T, P, Q, Y, X. Count to 10. 1, 2, 27, 14, 63, 94. And she said, hey, I need to see you. Jump on FaceTime because I want to make sure that you're okay and your face isn't drooping or anything. I'm like, sure, whatever. We jump on. And now I could see the fear in her eyes, which started to scare me. Because what had happened was I had a massive stroke during the night. And to take it even further, 98% of sleep stroke victims never wake up. And so she calls one of the directors on my team. He calls 911. We take me in. And now I'm in Torrance, right outside LA, Southern Cal. I only spent 90 minutes in the ER and they released me. 90 minutes. And I'm stuttering so bad, I can't even say my own name. They thought...
You said they released you where? To the ICU?
From the ER.
They discharged you?
In 90 minutes.
So,
and here's why, as I find out later.
Okay.
So my stroke was actually caused by something called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And for the basketball player fans out there, Reggie Lewis, Hank Gathers died from the same thing I did. What it is I have a really, really big heart, Brian. Right? Medically,
you're generous.
Generous, very generous. And actually, it's from getting in too good of shape, as my cardiologist reminded me. I have an enlarged heart. I also have an excess layer of muscle around my heart, so it doesn't squeeze as strong. So I had no blockage or anything, thank God. But the normal human heart squeezes at about 55 to 65% on average. When it gets down to 20%, cardiac arrest hits, you die. Here's where it got even weirder. When they pulled me in out of the ambulance into the emergency room, I was at 22% heart function. They gave me a 2% chance to live, but they still released me 90 minutes later. And on top of that, it was the day that I was heading back home. So I had to fly from LA all the way up to Oakland. Not smart. I flew up to Oakland, landed, my wife got me, took me directly to the emergency room near me up in the Bay Area. And the first thing the cardiologist and neurologist said to her after they confirmed that I had a stroke was, now this is a medical doctor that said this. Your husband's a miracle. because medically there's no reason he should be alive. Cabin pressure, altitude, mid-stroke. So I'll stop there because there's a lot more to the story later. But that's the first piece of what happened. And so I get to the hospital and I stay there. And I'll stop to see if you got any other questions, or I can just go forward with the story.
No, this is, I'm assuming this book tour is being financed from the lawsuit from Torrance. I don't know how malpractice, that's
I would
crazy.
not assume as such. And that's the problem. We did actually choose to move forward with a lawsuit, but the problem was it's very difficult to get doctors to actually speak against their colleagues in court. Now, had I died, there would have been a major malpractice suit.
Wrongful death all day. Yeah, but I'm glad that I'm happy you didn't have to litigate that.
It would have costed more to litigate it than what I would have gotten out of the suit.
Absolutely. Yeah, emergency rooms are ridiculous. We could probably have a whole nother podcast about that. But I think that unless the only way I'm going to an emergency room is through ambulance.
And even I did that day. I went via ambulance.
Which is fine, but I'm just saying I'm not voluntarily going to go I would give every urgent care imaginable before rolling up into an emergency room.
And as you should too. That should be your last choice.
So your wife really saved you. I mean, through a combination of, steps and stuff like that. But absolutely. That's no incredible. Question.
She definitely saved my life. And the upside is a friend of hers just a few weeks prior to that had a stroke. So she had experience of what to look for and how to diagnose it and to walk through all of it. So
I think I have a basic question. So yeah. And this is, we haven't got to the book yet necessarily, but this is all foreshadowing, so to speak.
Oh, all of this is in the book. This is one of the many stories in the book.
When you say stroke, just from a medical perspective, because we talked about heart attack, you mentioned the contributing causes. When I think of stroke, I think of blood. First of all, I think about the head, and then I think about something happened with a blood vessel or a burst, a rupture, somehow, some way blood is not flowing to a particular part of the brain. That's kind of been a working definition I have. How close or far is that from what?
That's about 50% accurate. And the reason is there are different types of stroke.
Okay.
Right? What you're talking to is something that is medically known as a hemorrhagic stroke. And that stroke, that's when you get the bleeder and it starts to now fill up the cavity and all those. The aneurysm is when it gets to a point to where it's like a dam and then it breaks and it just bursts, right? What I had is an ischemic stroke. And that is where what happened was medically, the night that I fell asleep, a clot actually, because my heart wasn't squeezing, it created a clot inside of my heart that then floated up to my brain and it lodged. And here's how I know God has a sense of humor. Because I'm a keynote speaker, it lodged in the middle of my speech center. And that's why I couldn't talk. All right. And so when that happens, it sits and it lodges. Now, there is a medicine that a clot buster that they could have given me a shot and broke it up. But the problem is
in the emergency room.
In the emergency room. But
yes.
And I can't knock them for not doing it. And here's why. If it's within a 3-hour window, you can do that. Outside of that window, it turns into really bad things in your brain. I had it while I was asleep. Did I have it as soon as I fell asleep? Was it the middle of the night? Did I just have the stroke? So we weren't clear on what the window was for me. And that's really why 98% of sleep stroke victims never wake up, is because it could happen at any time. And it wasn't as though I had a massive headache or, something that felt like a strong migraine. I felt nothing different than any other night when I fell asleep.
Wow. So I guess what I'd like to kind of pivot to then is, of course, you well, actually, you can pick up the story because I want to make sure because where we left off was you are now in the hospital for real. I assume the ICU. So I'm gonna
Correct.
get into some stuff after that, but let's hear the rest of that.
So I'm in the ICU, but let me give some details to this. It's 5 years ago. Where were we, Brian? We're in the middle of
Pandemic,
COVID.
yes, that would have been 2021.
2021, in the middle of
Mm-hmm.
COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
So
big time.
being as sick as I was and being in the ICU was not exactly where you wanted to be because I had people dying around me consistently because I was with the sickest of the sick. Right. So I went through, I don't know how many folks around me started out as roommates that didn't make it. And then they put me into my own room. But then you can't isolate me because I'm in ICU. How much isolating can you do at that point, right? Because people still had to come in and I'm going to say the obvious now. If you want to get rest, don't go to the hospital. Right? Because they need to check your blood pressure. They need to check your vitals. They need to wake you up. I got poked 58 times while I was in the hospital.
You counted?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
No,
I
I
mean,
didn't
not
count.
great,
They
but
because everything is documented. Remember, I had to go get all of my documents for the lawsuit. So I couldn't count. I don't even remember the first 3 days in the hospital. I don't even remember flying from LA up to Oakland.
yeah, that's just an amazing stat to have in your back pocket. Like, but because I think you're right. Like, I have been a partial caregiver for my mother who's experienced numerous trips to the hospital for multiple things, and it's just like when you're in there, it is, and I mean, you were in there in the worst possible time to be in a hospital. Like, people weren't even able to visit you probably properly. Like, there's all ICU is already heavily, you can't be in there. So, but yeah, it is not a place that inspires hope, recovery. Like,
No, it's not anything you ask for Christmas or birthday presents. That's for sure.
exactly.
Not at all.
But you were in there, so you got through that experience. What was it about? I guess, when did you kind of get to the point where you, I guess what they would call a turn in the corner, where you were maybe out of danger, still in like ICU, but it was clear that, okay, you're now on like a path to recovery, stabilization. I'm assuming there was speech therapy and a long road of other milestones to kind of get
It was
through.
about a month later. I went through physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. I had to learn how to tie my shoes, how to do a button, how to use a regular spoon again, all these things all over again. And along the way, it's one of those things where it gets worse before it gets better. And I felt like I was doing better, or at least they thought I was doing better. But then my body was like, no, it's not time yet. And what I mean by that is, remember one day my wife had come to see me, and again, now I am completely paralyzed, my entire left side at that point. And for those that have ever skied or snowboard, I was snowblind. So it wasn't dark. It was bright all the time. Like there was a light in my eyes. So I had no concept of day or night. And imagine what that does to your sleep pattern. Right.
Horrible.
And
Yeah.
I could hear all these names, and I got comfortable with the nurses, and I knew their voices and speech pattern. But literally, I could pass them in an airport right now, and I wouldn't know who they are because I couldn't see anything. And then I couldn't swallow. It got really bad
Oh,
because
wow.
the muscles in my throat had started to atrophy. And so now I'm on IV and I'm on Insure, and I lost 40 pounds. It was rough. And it really started to turn negative one night where my wife was holding my hand and she was getting ready to go home, and I could hear that she was starting to cry. Like, and I can't say what I want to because I'm stuttering so bad I can't get things out. But the best I could, it was like, essentially, babe, what's going on? And she said, You don't look good at all. And I don't want to go home. And she tells me later, because she knew in her heart that was going to be the last time she saw me alive. And she cried all the way from the hospital for, a good 25, 30 minutes, all the way home. And she was, as usual, she was spot on. That night, I was having a tough time breathing. And then all of a sudden, I heard code blue, code blue. Machines are going crazy, lights are flashing, and it's my room. And I'm struggling to breathe. And the doctors and nurses come in, and all of a sudden, I hear everything go from beep, 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 beep. And I flatlined. I'm dead medically. For those that want to know, no, did not see a white light. No, I did not see pearly white gates. I didn't see flames either. So I knew I was somewhere, right? Actually, what happened is I floated up to the corner of the room and I'm looking down on them working on my body, sucking out fluids, doing chest compression. And it's kind of like Charlie Brown's teacher, or if you've ever gone to the dentist and you've gotten Twilight, everything sounds like wah, 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 wah. It's voices, but there's no clarity. And I remember everything was moving in slow motion as I was watching this. Now, bear in mind, I wear glasses every day and I can't see anything without those. But that day, no glasses. I saw the most vibrant greens, blues, oranges, purples that I've ever seen in my life. And then I look to my left and it's my mama. I know it's her because she's got the purple muumuu she always wore, but she looked younger than I remembered her. And I said, okay, mama, good and faithful servant. I'm ready to go home. Let's go. And she said, no, baby, I was sent to tell you that everything's going to be okay. And they're going to figure out what's wrong. And then she told me something else, which I will not tell you. You got to get the book to see this one. But it's my new mission and my new purpose in life. And I said, okay, good, mama, because I've got questions. Right. And my mom, by the way, this was 5 years ago. My mom died in 1999. And I said, Mom, I got questions. Mama, she's gone. I'm sucked into my body and I could feel the jolt. Right. But I'm still flatline. Beep. And then I hear the word that no human ever wants to hear. Clear. He's rubbing the paddles. He's coming down to hit me. And I thank God he's on my right side because remember, my left side is paralyzed. Beep, 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 beep. Boom. He doesn't hit me. He's about an inch away from hitting me, I would say. And I grab his right hand. And now they all step back and he's yelling ERT, which I find out now is emergency response team. These are the people that come and help you after you've been brought back. And so we go through all of that. Fast forward, that's when I do more physical therapy, speech therapy. I went from being completely paralyzed to working on a walker, and then I got crutches and I got a cane that I was able to finally speak and walk and talk again. And I say all this because although it's an amazing story, it's probably a third of the book, Brian. That's not really what the book is about. The book is about myself and those 30 years of success. I'm flying around on corporate jets, corporate helicopters. I'm having lunch with President Obama, the Queen of England, all these things, which by most standards, I was successful. But I had forgotten the most important things. And that was one, self-care. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't exercising the way I used to. And the other thing was I forgot my why. My why had always been provide and protect my family. I remember it was a couple of weeks before I had my stroke and I was talking to my daughter. She's like, Dad, you've done so much. You've helped so many people. But what do you do just for yourself? What do you do for fun? Look, I said, what is this fun you speak of, child? Right?
Yeah, like what is that? What is
Yeah,
this?
but
What
it made me stop
theoretic
for a
concept?
moment and think, I don't have any hobbies. I was living to work. I wasn't working to live. And I'll go back even further back before I had the stroke, and my son was small at the time. I had been on the road. I did in 18 months. London, Paris, Geneva, Sao Paulo, Rio, Toronto, Beijing, Hong Kong, Sydney in 18 months. So I was the guy that flew out, flew back in, did my dry cleaning, saw the family a couple minutes, and I was right back out. One of those times I had been gone for 2 weeks in Europe. I said, babe, I've been eating hotel food for 2 weeks straight. I just want some greasy tacos.
Yes.
My son looked at me with a straight face. He said, Dad, Thursday shake and bake
Shake and bake
night. So what that
night.
says to me was they had a whole routine, a whole life without me because they had different nights that were already planned out. And Thursday, you don't get tacos. We shake and bake on Thursdays, Dad. I don't eat shake and bake. They do. But nevertheless, what it said to me is they've got a whole life without me. So after I was able to get back from the stroke, I asked my kids, I said, did I provide a good life for you? Was I a good dad? They're like, you're a great dad. And we had an amazing time growing up. My kids are older, 36, 27 now. And they said, but Dad, we wish we would have had you. We would have given up all the vacations, the cars, the clothes, the great neighborhoods, all that. Because my son played basketball, football. I missed games and I was his coach because I was traveling. I missed my daughter's 8th grade graduation. I still hear about that to this day, by the way. But what it said was the parents are out here for dance recitals and such. We're looking out and we see an empty seat next to mom. She's always there. So now my mom's a single mom because I'm flying so much. But what people didn't understand was while I was having all of these wonderful, amazing memories, I was crying myself to sleep because I missed my family. And I'm a senior vice president in corporate executive.
Yeah, it's one of the
I had it all figured out, but I didn't.
it's one of the great trade-offs. I heard one time somebody said that kids spell love Time, and it's kind of like, you know, whatever age they're at, they're only going to be that once. You know, your kid's only going to be two once. They're only going to walk once. They're only going to graduate, to your point, once, from that grade, I guess. But generally speaking.
And that's why, Brian, the byline of my book, the book is called Stroke of Success, but the byline is how climbing the ladder of success can be detrimental to your life. When I'm doing keynotes, I always ask the same question. I'll ask your audience so that they can ask themselves. While you're scrapping and scraping and working hard to be successful, first of all, more power to you. But I want you to stop for a moment and think, at what cost? It's going to cost you friends. It's going to cost you relationships. It could cost you your marriage. For me, it cost me my life. We all hear two things. One, everything in moderation. Too much of anything is a bad thing, including success and ego, because that's what was driving me.
But let me ask a question. And by the way, we are definitely got to have to do a part 2 because we're already. Absolutely. But I think one of the two things I want to touch on, then I want to talk about your tour. Why do you attribute this? So not why, let me ask. It sounds like you're directly attributing your whatever combination of work-life balance or lack thereof, stressors, lifestyle. You mentioned, kind of some of the exercise fell off. It sounds like you are directly attributing your some of the sacrifices correlated with your professional experiences to your stroke. Is that
absolutely
accurate? Okay.
Absolutely. Because I got comfortable living at that high level, that red line of stress, and it became the norm.
So I'm just going to ask about that because first, I've worked and supported executives. I've led executives. I've booked executives to speak, but I've never been an executive in kind of like a public corporate company setting, just as a, Black Speakers Network. And to me, just again, from outside looking in, executives kind of got it made. Like you mentioned a few things, private jets, Amex lounge, like I had when the executives I used to work with would literally fly, the super commuters, like you fly to the office and then fly back the same day.
Yeah.
It didn't seem that stressful. So what is it about like the optics of that, and how did that maybe depart from like your real world experience, during those times?
That's a great point. The way I explain it is people on the outside see the glory that you're talking about. They don't see the story behind it. They don't see all the politics that you have to go through at that level. They don't see the fact that when you think about layoffs, we have to think about every single person we're going to lay off. And for some of us, it hit us personally. I knew people that I had to cut. I knew they had just had a new baby. I knew that they were going through medical things. I knew that they were going through a divorce. Right? Then got to a point to where I had laid off a chunk of folks at one place. I was in that room. There were 4 of us making decisions. They forgot to tell me that I was also being cut.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Nobody mentioned that part.
All right.
Right. And so I'm like, wait, whoa, I thought we were us. No, it was you and me. There was no we. And then I'm going to also put it on top of that, being the only Black executive in the boardroom of every company I worked at.
I was going to ask about that. Is that like
unrealistic expectations? Right. And so what I did was first of all, I allowed what I did to overtake who I was. Never do that. Corporate America is here to make a profit, not friends. And so I created this persona, a character that I called RJ. RJ was the quintessential executive. He had the right shoes, the right belt, the right clothes. He drove the Mercedes S550. He lived in the right neighborhood.
Played the part.
But the problem is, when you look like us, you realize quickly we've been taught growing up how to play checkers. They were taught chess from day one. And so I had to learn the game late in life. I assimilated probably a little too much to where I lost sight of. And my mom would always remind me, baby, with that Southern accent, she would say, you can be with them, but you're never going to be one of them.
Come on, mama. And where were y'all from? Where you came
from? Louisiana.
What part?
In Texas. From Shreveport.
Shreveport.
I was born in Shreveport.
Yeah, okay.
Grew up in Shreveport and Dallas. And so I kept hearing that in the back of my mind, but at the same time, I've got the big logo that I'm working for. I've got the big salary. I've got the big organization. I've got the big responsibility. 3 little letters took over. EGO.
Ego. Yes. Yeah. I was still thinking medical terms. I'm like, what is that? EKG. I know that one. Like ego. Okay. Yeah. Question.
And I lost sight of who I was.
So what would you say to people so right now, I mean, and again, we definitely probably need a part 2 or 3, but for folks now, and obviously I'm assuming this is what the book gets into, again, stroke of success.
The latter part. Let me say this before we jump in. For the folks with the book, it's written in 3 phases. I wrote it like it's a play. The first is the meteoric rise. Then the second portion of it is the fall with the stroke. The third is probably the most important, and that is the phoenix that rises out of the ashes that has made me who I am today. And I have to say it, 2 things before we move forward. 1, stroke was the best thing that ever happened. Although it killed me, it changed me, and there's no way it couldn't. And second, I'm going to look directly into this camera and say, just as I say every time I tell this story, Tim Carlson, you know who you are. Thank you for saving my life. That is the man that literally took me to that call 911 rode with me in the ambulance to the emergency room, worked with me as I got on the plane until I got back to my wife, took copious notes while we were in the emergency room. If it weren't for
Hmm.
you, I would not be alive. So thank you so much for everything you did.
Beautiful. Listen, if y'all if you're not excited about this book, by the way, you can grab the link down in the caption, and you know, if you have questions too, because you know, as we do kind of a few more of these conversations, please let us know. If you grab the book, if you listen to this and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go grab it, just drop book into the comments so we know and we can do a little celebration around that.
May I say
But
something really quick? Please don't go to Amazon and go get the book because I never know who's getting it. And I know I'm going to give you the link, but I always say this:
that's
go
good.
to roderickjefferson.com. That way you actually get a signed and a personalized book directly from me. There's no AI. This is me doing it.
Yeah, I think that's important, even because, you know, this is BSN Bookshelf. So we have a lot of folks who are aspiring authors. That's a great note. Generally speaking, you want your sales coming through your website, not only just from just a business perspective, but you're getting the information as well. So,
Yes,
but
indeed.
more importantly, I think that what's what I don't want to be remiss is that you're still here with us, and
Yeah.
you're still here, and you are providing this message. Like you don't always get an opportunity to talk to people who got like a second chance, third chance, and anything, car
Yeah,
accident,
that's
whatever.
true.
So your perspective is greatly valued, and this is your second book, I believe, because you wrote Sales Enablement
Yes, this
3.0.
is actually my third.
Third book. Okay.
Yeah.
So you are not wasting this gift,
No,
this
no, no.
second chance at existence here. Oh, can you pull up your tour? And then we got to kind of get out of here. We'll do a part two to kind of get into some of the back end stuff that you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. This tour, the Stroke of Success Speaker Tour, and
Great name.
thank you. I appreciate it. I went through a lot of different titles before I came to and landed on Stroke of Success because, for the obvious, it's literally the success and pushing me that almost killed me by that stroke. So as you can see, I'm going to be all over the country, and this will continue to grow, and more dates are being added. As a matter of fact, have been added since this thing was created. I'm incredibly blessed. And the great thing is, Brian, and when we first met, I was talking only about leveraging AI and sales enablement. And I was kind of in a box with sales and marketing leaders. This one is special because I'm not talking about how to make revenue for companies. I'm talking to people about how can I help you not go through what I went through and hopefully save some lives. Because there's a whole section in the book of resources as well, of how do you do this, how not to do this, where do you go? And another thing, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. And that is, I want to say thank you to all the caregivers like yourself, Brian, of taking care of your mom, because it's a fraternity, a sorority that nobody ever signs up for. It's being in a group of folks that no one ever wants to be a part of. It's also one of, and I just put this up on LinkedIn today, as a matter of fact, so it's timely. And that is sometimes the hardest words for us, the survivors, is thank you. And it's not that we don't appreciate, we just don't know how to say thank you for saving my life. And so, what I want to say is to all of the caregivers out there, like yourself, brother, thank you. If no one else said it, you are appreciated. And we cannot, there are not enough words in our language to express our gratitude for even the smallest of things and for the big things that, and especially when it's a parent or it's a significant other, you didn't sign up for this. I'll say this last thing.
And thank you, by the way.
You're
That's
very
incredible.
welcome. The hardest thing for my kids, just like every other kid that looks up at their parents, they saw Superman, especially the super exec. My kids saw Superman. I had the cape on and everything. When I had that stroke, they met Clark Kent. I was just regular. I wasn't Superman. I couldn't talk. I couldn't walk. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even protect them if someone came in my house. So I want to say to my kids and to my wife, thank you for looking into the face of Clark Kent and still loving me as though I was Superman. I know it was hard on them.
Listen, this is how you tell a story. And you're just such a great example of so many things. You know, we talk about, expressing gratitude, appreciation, reflecting on your journey. You know, it's just so many things, so many individual threads that I love about this. And when people are, I found it kind of difficult to be a speaker in my 20s because I hadn't gone through anything. It's kind of like,
talk about it's like those 20 somethings that are life coaches. Really? How much experience in life do you have?
Yeah, I just, it became challenging for me. I'm sure some other people could pull it off because you can go through stuff at like 12. Like there's some people that bad, but I'm just, for me, it was a struggle. And now being in my 40s, I'm like, okay, reflecting on these different phases of life. Because you had the stroke at 55, I think you said. 55. Yeah, so you know, that 55, you're not super young, but you're also not very old. Like, you know, in the modern context.
Well, you're not old, but you are seasoned.
Lowry's.
Yes, you're Lowry's.
Listen, I'm gonna let you go back. I just want to say thank you. You're always welcome on the BSN stage. I hope your family sees this. If they are, drop some love in the comments for Roderick and the family and the caregivers. If you know a caregiver, maybe tag them or just use this, you know, this space as a place to continue that wave of gratitude and appreciation for the folks that don't. But go grab your copy of Stroke of Success and drop your questions and your comments in. And Roderick, you willing to come back, do a part 2, take us behind the scenes a little bit?
Let's definitely get back together because I didn't even tell you the craziest part of all of this. That is the bounce back.
And what it took to get there. That was crazier than an astral projection. Okay.
Oh yes,
that was to me. That was like when you start going Doctor Strange. I was like, okay, yeah, this is getting interesting. Thank you so much, y'all. Continue to follow Roderick. Roderick also has an incredible newsletter on LinkedIn. I had thousands of people who subscribe to that, so always good stuff. If you are looking for a sales expert as well, he still has that side of the house, sales enablement. Consulting. So yeah, I'm glad you got kind of both wheels now to kind of serve the organization and serve the people. And so appreciate you, man. Y'all have a great rest of the day. And as we say in Black Speaker Network, keep speaking up because your audience awaits. We'll see y'all on stage.